Our topic today is tips to prevent waste and recycle the correct way. And our speaker is Theresa Greinig, who is the educational coordinator for the Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County. And she brought her own trash with her. So that's different. You know, some people might bring a sandwich or a pizza or something. You brought trash. So anyway, please give a Tuesday Club welcome to Theresa Greinig.
Good morning. Everybody can hear me okay? Mic is working wonderful. Well, thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak with you, and thank you for the introduction. So today, yes, we are going to be talking about recycling correctly. However, before we even get to talking about recycling, we need to rewind a little bit and first talk about our trash. So as I ask you to begin with, who has ever thrown something away? Thank you for the participation, yes. Who's thrown something away today? Today, absolutely. So let me ask you as well, where does it go once we put it in the trash? What happens to it? I see some head shaking, I don't know. I hear it goes to the truck. Okay, I hear some ideas, other ideas about what might happen to it to be separated. However, once all of our, move on here. There we go. All right, so where does our garbage go? All of our garbage in the state of Illinois goes to the landfill. I heard somebody say it goes to the dump. The scientific term is landfill. So yes, in Illinois, all of our garbage is landfilled. So when our garbage leaves our homes, right, it leaves in these great big trucks, picks up from our homes, and it's delivered to what's called a transfer station. At that point, it's unloaded onto the floor and then reloaded into these large trailers and then transported to the landfill. So our landfill is in Winnebago County, or the Winnebago landfill, I should say, just outside of Rockford. And last year, about 267,000 tons of garbage were sent to this landfill. The reason I mention this, even before we start talking about recycling, is that that's a lot of garbage, right? That's a lot of waste being dumped into our earth that's going to be buried and stay there forever. So just because we can throw something away doesn't mean we should. So that's a bit of what we also need to discuss today. So our very first point is reducing that waste. You saw that large amount there in the landfill. Never even get to dealing with our waste at the end and the choices we make of what to do with it. Does it go to the landfill? Does it go to recycle? We again need to rewind and realize that the most singular important thing that we can do for our planet in dealing with our waste is the idea of reducing. We need to reduce the amount of waste whenever possible. There's some simple ways to do this. One is making sure that the products we are using are sustainable. So I would encourage you to use a reusable water bottle, coffee mug, right? Utensils, fork, knife, spoons, washable napkins rather than ones you would need to throw away, plates, cups, right? Something that's not disposable, wash it. As well as we go out for takeout, right? Or we go to a restaurant for dinner. Oftentimes we have leftovers and they come home with us in those horrible styrofoam containers that must go to the landfill. So bring a container with you, just like you would bring a bag, a reusable bag to the grocery store. Bring a container with you, some of those leftovers. And then as I was referring to our reusable grocery bags, say no to plastic. Say no to those grocery bags in the store. Carry your own with you. Leave them in the trunk of your car so that you don't forget. Bring a couple of them in there to the store with you. If you only buy 1 or 2 items, say no thank you to the plastic bag and carry out what you have. A good partner to the idea of reduce is also the concept of reuse, right? They go hand in hand. So we want to reduce the amount of waste we're producing overall. And part of that is remembering to reuse what we already have, to use it again and again and again and again until it's used up or it's entirely worn out. Arts and crafts, simply taking what we have that maybe doesn't fit us, something that's out of style, something we might not use anymore, and making sure that it gets donated or given to someone who will. Books can often, yes, go to a library or to resale, but there are a lot of these great little reuse libraries around through neighborhoods that give folks the opportunity to borrow something, put something in when they're finished. And then after we have reduced as much as possible, we have reused everything we possibly can to the point where it's really no longer of use to us. Then again, we have trash, we have waste, something we need to decide how to dispose of. Yes, some things go to the landfill, right? Here's our example over here of our little transportable landfill with all of the garbage in it. We can see that it's overstuffed, right? However, in addition to what goes in the landfill, our hearts are all in the right place. We want to take care of the earth. We love the concept of recycling. However, we have to do it correctly or we're really not doing any good. So doing it correctly matters. It matters significantly, and it matters significantly today, and it might have yesterday or the day before that. So the first couple things to keep in mind is that anything that goes into our recycle bin, that could be something that's inside our building, inside our home, even our great big outside curbside bins, would be that it has to be clean, it has to be empty, and it has to be dry. And bigger than that, no plastic bags, right? So often we hear, I'll borrow this from our landfill. Often we hear, well, I'm going to put this bag in my recycle bin. I'm going to put all my recycled material in it. I'm going to pick my bag up and then I'm going to bring it out to my curbside bin. That's great. Just dump the plastic bag out first. Take the plastic bag back inside with you. Unequivocally, unquestionably, no plastic bags can go in your recycle bin. There is obviously separate collections for those. Keep them off to the side, bring them back to the grocery store, bring them back to the big box store, to the pharmacies. They all have collections for those. So the biggest points are empty, clean, and dry with absolutely no bags. Outside of that, what is it we do want in these bins? And how do we tell? How do we tell that the material that goes into these bins is the special material? It's the quality material. It's what we currently want to have, give some new life to, right? Have it made into new products. Well, the amount of that material, the type of that material gets a little bit narrower day by day. And some of the reasons for that is because we have become globally such a throwaway society, if you will, right? We use a lot of products and then we just want to get rid of them. So there's a lot of mass that we have to deal with. So now we're down to only needing the quality materials. There's 4 categories: paper, metal, glass, and plastic. And we're going to talk specifically about each of those categories a little bit, but what we really need to do is think about what we have in hand before we decide that it can go into the recycle bin. So we're going to jump a little bit ahead to what happens once this recycle bin leaves our home or leaves our facility. How is that recycling? Someone mentioned earlier, it's sorted and separated. Our garbage is not, but our recycling is. And that will also help lead us to the understanding of why it's so important to do it correctly.
The average American throws away 4.5 pounds of garbage each day. Our landfills are quickly filling up, raw materials are being depleted, and a huge amount of energy is being used to make products from raw materials. Our current recycling efforts in America are falling short. A basic understanding of how recycling works will make us all better recyclers. Let's go behind the scenes to better understand the recycling journey. Our journey begins at the curb on pickup day. The recyclables that you placed in your recycle cart are picked up by our driver, who then delivers it to our material recovery facility. Here, material is sorted by type. Once the truck is weighed, our driver dumps the material. The material is loaded in our drum feeder. The drum feeder distributes the material evenly onto a conveyor belt. The material then makes its way to the first sorting station. Workers sort through the materials to remove items that cannot be recycled at our facility, like plastic bags, toys, and electronics. Next, rubber stars rotate to separate cardboard from other recyclable materials. Additional screens help the flow of material by sending paper over the screen and containers below. Workers remove any remaining non-recyclable items. Paper and cardboard is then sent to our baler, where it is compacted into large bales. Now that the cardboard and paper has been removed and baled, let's sort the remaining material. Glass pieces fall through our fine screen and make their way to the glass collection area. As the containers continue through the system, the tin cans are pulled out using a magnet. The rest of the containers are sorted using one of our T-Tech machines, which looks at each container and separates it by type using bursts of air. Aluminum cans are separated by what we call an eddy current. The eddy current is a special magnet which repels the cans into their own storage container. Once sorted, material is sent to the container baler, where separate recyclables are compacted into bales. Bales are loaded onto trucks, which transport the materials to various facilities to be transformed into new products. Together, with proper recycling, we can each continue to save landfill space, conserve energy, and protect our planet's natural resources.
So the quick video of a tour of the material recovery facility is definitely a better view than what I could describe to you in the 2.5 minutes of the video. So as you can see, there is a lot of material that gets brought in every single day, gets divided out, sorted, and baled so that that material can, as we say, get a new job or have a second life. So when we go back and look at what can, yes, go into our recycling bins and know what should not go into that bins, having an idea of what happens to that material and how it's sorted can help us think through that a little bit. So again, when we think of plastic materials that, yes, do go in that bin, we want to think of something like an orange juice container, right? Or a milk gallon, or an empty laundry soap container, right? We want to think of tubs, jugs, and jars, right? That will go in. We ask that they are empty, they're clean, use them again and again, make sure their lids are on, and then not with our plastic bag. But these materials can go into our recycling bin. Oops. Gave you a bit of a rewind there. Then also we want to think about glass from food and beverage products only. Maybe it's a soda bottle, maybe it's a jelly jar, as long as it is clean, empty, unbroken, those can go into our recycle bin. When we look at metal, we want to think about steel and aluminum. So again, something like maybe a tray or an empty container, right, from fruit or vegetables or soup. Empty, clean, yes, those can go into our recycle bin. And other than that, we're looking for mixed paper, cartons. So old newspaper, as long as it's clean and dry, something like a carton, right? A little milk container, juice container, or even a toilet paper tube, right? We want to flatten all of our cardboard boxes, but otherwise all of our clean, dry paper, yes, can go in our recycle bin. And other than that, that's about it. That's what goes in our bin. Everything else gets sent to the landfill. There's often some confusion as to, well, this is plastic. Let's take a look at especially this, right? This is plastic. It even has a little recycle symbol on the bottom of it. That means I can, yes, put it in my recycle bin. No. One thing I would like you all to just erase from your mind is the idea of the numbers and the recycle symbol that you see on plastic items. It was truly not necessarily meant for us as consumers. It's a resin code, which helps us to know as a manufacturer a little more detail about this product, right? What you need to know is that any plastic, any flexible packaging plastic, like this type of bag, something you might get off of a Kleenex or a toilet paper container, right? Those types of things can be recycled separately through a special collection, but anything that we bring into our homes that was meant to be a single-use plastic is not what we want in these bins. These, yes, rinse them out, reuse them as much as possible, but when we're finished, these must go to the landfill. So only the products that we talked about, only these categories of plastic, glass, metal, and mixed paper and cardboard are allowed to go into our recycle bin. So the idea of do not put these in our carts, no batteries, electronics, or sharps, no plastic bags or wrap, we've talked about that, no food, no liquids. Someone asked me already today, well, I used to be told that I could put a peanut butter jar, even if it was soiled with some peanut butter, into my recycle bin. If there was some jelly left in the bottom of the container, some liquid left in my orange juice, once upon a time, that might have been an opportunity. Today, the answer to that is no. It must be empty and clean before it goes in. No clothes, no shoes, no what we call anglers, right? Regardless of what they're made out of. No hangers, no hoses, no string lights, holiday lights. Those all cause big problems. So then the question is, well, what do we do with some of this, right? Here's again an example of some of those no's. Less than 9% of the plastic we bring into our homes and businesses can actually be recycled at the curb. It's a very narrow margin. So these again are some things that might be something we want to put in our recycle bin. We call that wish cycling, right? We have this, we're done with it. We really, really, really want to be a good steward. We wish and hope it can go into our recycle bin. Someone will take it out if it doesn't belong. So we put it in the bin. What happens at that point is we've just created contamination, and that increases the risk of everything we have put in this bin not being able to be utilized at a recycle center, right? We don't want to contaminate the good products that go in here. So it is very important that all of these types of things end up either in a special collection, reuse, or in the landfill. So speaking of special collections or special materials, there are some items that we know that we can take care of in a different way other than the landfill. Just takes a little bit of extra effort or responsibility on our part to do the correct thing. And that's what we call our special materials programs. So there are some photos up here, but one of the things to think about as well is that electronics, it is now a law that electronics are not allowed to be put into the landfill. They go through a special collection program so that the components of them can be appropriately disposed of. Textiles, so our clothing, our pillows, extra sewing cloth, those types of materials. There are programs out there. One is called Simple Recycle. Many of the communities that this center supports do offer Simple Recycle as an opportunity. They see to it that those textiles are either reused or put into a recycle program. There are document destruction events. As a side note, shredded paper cannot go in your recycle bin. Holiday lights, there's always pickups for those around in the area. Medications, sharps, batteries, and household chemical waste, right? Those are all things that we don't want to see in our landfill. There are other opportunities to dispose of them. Another idea is, what do we do with the food, right? With our food scraps. One of the things that we would like to encourage everyone, which is also something that you already know, is let's only maybe take the food we want to eat or we know that we're going to use, so that we're not wasting it from the get-go. But for the food scraps that we have, especially in the areas here, we have the opportunity to compost. So you can compost at home, you can compost at this facility by using fruits and vegetable scraps. You can also work with your local hauler. My organization can help you figure some of those things out. And you can use a commercial hauler as well, that you could set up a drop-off point here at this center, and they would come and take that compost and haul it away. Approximately 25% of what ends up in a landfill is food scraps that could have been composted or not wasted in the first place. So there's some ideas for composting. Another thing to think about is just our green spaces, rethinking our lawns and gardens, right? So we might not be in the position to be doing all of our own landscaping that's necessary or that we like to see, but it is still our responsibility to talk to those companies that we hire, or the teenage kid down the block who's going to come mow our lawn, right? And talk to them about what, if any, chemicals are being used on our lawns. Are we leaving the clippings there? Are we hauling them away? It is our job to be responsible with what goes not just out of our homes as waste, but also into our environment. Other things to consider would be water conservation. That's always a hot topic, right? Everywhere from turn the water off for when you brush your teeth, take a shorter shower, don't fill up the bathtub, use energy efficient machines. There's some statistics here on how much water is used, both in our country, in our area in Cook County, and I believe there might be some up there just nationwide as well. Just something to think about. Low flow opportunities are important. Getting leaks fixed are also very important. So outside of that, I am sure there are lots of questions about what can and what cannot go in our recycle, ideas about how to reduce and reuse, as well as the opportunities for compost. But what I want to do is, again, thank you for that invitation today, and just remind you that what we do makes a difference. The type of difference we make is entirely up to you. So I was asked to keep our presentation at about a half an hour and give opportunities for some questions. So at this point, I understand there's a microphone. I would love to help as much as I can. Oh, I think our microphone is off. I heard the voice. So the question was, what about burning items that are not recyclable? We hear obviously a lot and see a lot of scientific evidence about global warming, right? And taking care of our ozone and our atmosphere. So in Illinois, we do not burn our trash. Our trash, as we said in the beginning, all goes to the landfill that's just outside of Rockford.
Are there any issues with the garbage disposal, or is that a good practice?
Oh, that's a question that I've actually gotten a lot recently as well. So when we put food scraps down the garbage disposal, right, it gets all chopped up and goes out with our wastewater. So it does divert those food scraps from the landfill. It does still need to go through to the wastewater treatment plant, get that word out, the wastewater treatment plant, and have that whole process taken care of, filtered and cleaned and decontaminated for that water to go back out into the system. And then all of the product that's left, that's removed from the water, has to be disposed of as well. So there's a balance on each side. Diverting from the landfill is very important. However, the best opportunity would be to reduce what we're going to have as food scrap to start with and compost if at all possible.
My garbage in my neighborhood leaves at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I'm fine with that. I get up and I don't have a problem. But when it's left overnight and it gets wet in an open bin, what happens to it then?
Well, that's a very good question. So my understanding is that all bins in all communities have a lid. If they don't, then that would be an interesting question to have discussed with your hauler. Because the bins that go, the large bins that go outside are 35 or 65 gallon bins. Everything needs to be put inside of those. Again, the cardboard flattened so that it all fits inside, and then that lid closed.
Excuse me, I have several questions. One, first of all, it's a beautiful presentation, and thank you very much. Is there a printed form to that presentation so I can keep it at home and kind of go over it?
Well, thank you so very much for asking. So before we finish up today, I was going to let you know that on your beautiful piano over here, I do have a few printed resources for you. But what I advise you to do, a lot of you were very tech savvy as I was watching your presentations earlier, is what I invite you to do is to visit our website. And on our website, there is a plethora of information, including this really cool recycling guide where you could put in your address, even if you choose to, type in the product you're looking to get rid of, hit search, and it will give you opportunities of where you can dispose of a particular product. However, for our top 4 that we're talking about here, if you do choose to take one, as a reminder, I do have these little cards kind of consolidated for you so that on one side it is the reminders with the real pictures of, yes, please, this is what we would like in the recycle bin, and the big no thank yous. We really don't want those in there. So those are available on your piano. I do also have a couple of other brochures for you, such as reducing your carbon footprint, closing the loop, a card on electronics and recycle, as well as if you'd like a little magnet for your refrigerator as a reminder, or just as a little treat, we can all use some help opening jars and cans or using coasters. These are actually made out of recycled tires. And so I do have some of those over there. There are a few pieces that we just have on display only you can get from our website. But as a reminder, I encourage you, printed brochures, fun tangibles are great to take home. But if it's not something that you're not going to use, you've just contributed to taking waste you're going to have to dispose of. So again, think. Yes.
You mentioned several things that are not recyclable, plastics, electronics, that type of stuff.
Well, some plastics are recyclable, just not all of them.
All right. The question is, I had a problem maybe about a year ago with paint. How do you recycle paint?
That's a great question. So paint has the opportunity to fall under what we call household hazardous waste. So a lot of the paint that you might use inside your home, right, the latex-based paints can simply be dried out. And then those can be disposed of in your curbside trash bin. However, one of the things that we recommend first is find a place to reuse them. A lot of times Habitat for Humanity, even if it's half full, right? Habitat Humanity, local church groups, organizations like that are always looking for additional paint, because if you take blue and blue and blue and blue and you mix it together, you still get blue, right? And it can be reused in that fashion. Otherwise, that type of paint, again, you can dry out. The oil-based paints are a hazardous waste material, and you do need to bring those to a facility to be disposed of properly. Your local hardware stores will often take those for you, or our organization does host a couple of drop-off events during the year.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. I noticed on the glass jar that you still had the lid on. Shouldn't we take the lid off of the glass jars?
Well, that's a great question. And again, kind of the rules change all the time, right? Based on the technology that's available. So currently, pardon my reach here, if we have a plastic bottle, we ask that, of course, empty, clean, dry, reuse, that the lids go on tightly, and then they're put in recycle. For our glass bottles, as long as it's a considerable sized lid, it may stay on the jar. As you saw how the sorting happens, it has enough mass to make it through without causing a problem. The small little tops that you might get from a glass bottle of a soda container or a beer, right, those types of things all do need to come off, get thrown away, and then the glass can go into recycle.
Okay. And the other thing I noticed then on the aluminum can that you had, for those of us who are obsessive compulsive about some of that stuff, you had pulled the label off.
Oh, thank you for noticing that. Yeah, very good. So the steel can that I had here, honestly, the label is gone so that I use it as an example of just the steel can. And when I washed it and scoured it, it didn't stay on, right? You are welcome to leave those labels on the cans or on jars. They do not have to come off. If they're hanging loose or they're kind of gross and dirty, sure, just give it a quick peel off, throw it in the trash and recycle the good stuff. But otherwise, if it's on secure and clean, you may leave it on.
Thank you. You make it, you make garbage exciting. That's unusual. Couple of questions. Solid Waste Agency, Northern Cook County. Are you a part of Cook County management, a Cook County government?
No, we're not. So we are a joint municipal agency. We help assist 23 member communities with education and their waste management. We are not in charge of what happens at your curbside with your waste or your recycle. We help facilitate the process.
My questions for asking that is, I live at unincorporated Northbrook, which is Cook County.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get waste management picking up our stuff. Their code may be, or their regulations may be different than the city of Northbrook.
You're correct, right?
And that's what leads to such extraordinary confusion, because if I call Northbrook, say, what do I do with the paint? They think I'm in Northbrook. So they say, fill it up with cat litter.
Sure.
And then dump it, the whole thing into recycle.
Not into recycle, into your waste bin. Yes.
Right. It's very confusing.
It is.
Now, the site, you said, look at our website. Where's your website?
Well, our website, we've lost our.
Here you are. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Here, we'll have to get back up there. So I'm sorry. I thought that was still on the screen behind me when I referred to it. I didn't realize it had disappeared. But it's swank, SWNCC.org. We'll make sure that it gets, posted up there, or it is also on the printed material that is there. And just to note of his question of, it's confusing and it's frustrating. Absolutely. Trash is simple, right? It goes to the landfill. Recycle is anything And it's an industry, and it's run by industry rules and regulations and commerce and the almighty dollar, right? It has to be beneficial also financially to be able to recycle this material. So all of the different communities, yes, there might be idiosyncrasies between them. And so that's why it's important to kind of stay up to date and abreast of the information. However, to address your point specifically, those four big categories we've talked about, what are the yeses, what are the nos, are generally accepted rules statewide. So if you're wondering about any of the materials we said that we're okay to put in here, it's okay to put them in here. Otherwise, if you have questions specifically, you can always contact the hauler directly, and they can let you know if it's something that's accepted or not.
Hello.
Oh, good. I'm glad that the brochures are helpful for you. Sure. And again, you can find them on our website if you wanted to share them with others or to.
How long are the dump sites life cycle? How long are they going to last?
Oh, the landfills?
The landfills.
I'm sorry. It depends on how much we put in them, right? To be honest, I don't know. I'm sure there is some sort of statistical analysis on when we dig the landfill for how big it is and how many contributors there are to it on how long that's going to last. I don't know those statistics off the top of my head. But really the answer is going to be, if we don't reduce and reuse, we're going to be filling that landfill a lot faster than if we make the efforts otherwise.
Do you know anything about protecting the water underneath the land?
In the landfills, there's a whole science to how the landfills are lined and how materials are buried. And that also goes with what's allowed in, what's allowed out. The materials that are in the landfill also have the ability, some of them, to produce a methane gas. So we also have to be careful and allow that to off gas as the landfill is full, which is often why you'll see, looks like a little, like a tube with a flame maybe out the top. That's, yep, right over here. That's the burning methane. That's a whole presentation that could take hours to present on the structure of a landfill. But yes, generally speaking, the landfills are designed to prevent anything from leaching out into the environment, because that would be bad. We want it contained. There are, if what you're thinking of, issue with a local landfill that does have some leaking happening and whatnot, it does happen. And sometimes it's based on what we didn't know to begin with and what we know now. But of course, that's not something that we want to have happen. Yes, sir.
I just want to be a good citizen, and I think you went over it very quickly. What do you do with batteries?
Oh, there we go. What do we do with batteries? Yes. So one of the slides we had was for special collections. Our agency does sponsor special collections for batteries, and we will take both alkaline and lithium batteries. However, so that it's just easy and you don't have to think about it. However, truth be told, alkaline batteries can go in your trash can. No batteries go into your recycle bin. Lithium batteries do require special collection because they are highly explosive and dangerous.
Can I add to that?
Yes, please.
I went to that for 3 days trying to get rid of about 20 pounds of batteries, flashlight batteries, 38 batteries, etc. On Dundee Road is a store called, and it's a national chain, Batteries and Bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
They accept them all. So they take all, not automobile batteries,
Right.
things like that. They'll take them all.
Yep. Thank you. Batteries and Bulbs, Batteries Plus. A lot of those facilities will take the batteries that you bring in, as long as they're just yours from your household. You would have to make special arrangements if you brought them in from a major collection. And some of the places that you might bring paints to, or that you might bring batteries to, may have a nominal fee that goes with that disposal. Sometimes that shocks people, but one of the things that we've always recognized is If we buy a big television, we know in advance we're paying for the box. We're paying for its delivery to the store. We're paying, even if it says free delivery, right, to our home, that's built into the price. All of that is kind of that forward fronted cost that we know when we purchase something. What we have to realize as a society is there is also a cost when we need to dispose of something, when that material has reached its end of life. And often we get the calls of people being shocked of, I really don't want to have to pay to dispose of this, but I'm legally not allowed to throw it in my trash can. What do I do? So you can hold on to it and bring it to a special collection event where it's free. But one of the things we do have to remember, like those batteries or the paints or the other household hazardous waste, is often there's a nominal charge to make sure that it's disposed of appropriately.
The Northbrook Library has, I think for the kids who are there, I think they collect batteries, glasses, the little those plastic containers or covers for their candy bars and everything they might eat while they're studying.
Sure.
And they're right at the base of the
right. And those would all fall into that category of special collections. And the majority of that is probably something that the library themselves has taken on the responsibility of doing, and kudos to them, right? The more we can divert from the landfill and get recycled, the better. I see the microphone going around.
One last bit of information. I have 2 printers and a tower, a computer tower, and believe it or not, Staples will take them for free.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yep. And if you're part of one of Swank's 23 member communities, some of us today may be, some of us may not be, you can also bring those to our transfer station on Saturdays between 9 and 11:30, and we will take those for you as well. But yes, Staples, Home Depot, ABT, those are all places that will also take those electronics.
And the Village of Northbrook also takes batteries and various things, and right in the lobby of.
Right in the lobby, sure. Yep. And that again would be a special collection program that they would take and then ensure that they're disposed of properly.
Do we have people having questions from the internet that Joe can respond to?
Hi there, everyone. This is Joe. There are quite a few questions on chat. I think I'm going to change mics because the other one sounds better.
Hi again. So the first one was actually from Ron right at the beginning. We put 2 big plastic bags in 2 bins to collect our garbage and recycle. Should we use paper bags instead of plastic bags to hold? Recycle. I think you said
Thank you for that question. It is probably one of the best things to review. You are welcome to collect your recycle in anything you want. But when you put it into your curbside bin or the great big dumpsters that you might have outside of your facility here, they must go in loose. So if you dump it in and you have that plastic bag, the plastic bag cannot go. You take it with you, bring it back in, use it again. If you've collected it in a paper bag, the paper bag, as long as it's clean and dry, can be recycled, but the materials still need to go in loose. So you dump them in and just bring the paper bag back inside and use it again.
Thank you. Mara asks, can ice cream containers, paper with a coating, in other words, be recycled?
That's kind of an iffy question. So it's not necessarily, let me dig back into my bin here. So it's not necessarily something like this. If you can empty it, make sure that it is clean and dry. Generally, that type of container can go into recycle here in Illinois. However, again, if it's an item that you have that you're just not sure about, do not wish cycle. Think and put it in the trash to go to the landfill.
Thank you. Adriana says, can we pre-sort to help the waste haulers? So should we resort on our end?
Really pre-sorting, because where we are, everything is single stream, which means we can put everything into one bin. And as you saw, it's sorted out at the facility. The best thing to do if you're thinking about sorting is just make sure you're sorting the trash from the recycle, and that only the quality materials are going into that bin.
Thank you. Someone else asks, cardboard boxes I receive from Amazon, etc., say to remove the labels before recycling. I can't get the labels off. Does this really matter?
That's an interesting question. Without seeing, I don't want to speak out of turn, without seeing the box, if it's like a corrugated cardboard box, then flatten the box, put it in your recycle bin. If you have, and again, absolutely not to pick on Amazon, but if you have packaging material like this type of material can actually be collected separately with your plastic bags and recycled back at a storefront. Cannot go into your curbside bin. I haven't personally received from Amazon in a while the more mixed material where it's kind of paper on the outside and you open it up and it's a plastic fiber on the inside. Since that's a mixed material, that would need to go into the landfill. But generally just a box, make sure that it's flattened, please, and that it fits in your bin with the lid closed.
Thanks. Ron had a comment and a question. He said, I didn't see dishwashers in your water use list. And he also asked about sharps. I'm guessing you mean needles that we use for diabetes or.
Yep, generally that's what we would consider a sharp.
Yeah, so dishwashers, I know that they're probably better than washing up by hand.
The statistics on the dishwashers, of course, vary if you have a high efficiency or less. So load your, very generically speaking, if you load your dishwasher completely and then run it, yes, you would be saving more water than washing all of that individually in the sink.
Thank you. I'm going to smush a few questions together because I'm just going to say them. What about tissue and aluminum foil? Can they be recycled?
So aluminum foil, as long as it's clean and dry, yes, that can go into recycle. However, that needs to be the plain aluminum foil, not the no stick or any of the other fancy, just the plain aluminum. And you asked about tissue. If you're talking about tissue as in like what you blow your nose, for example, that unequivocally no. Tissues, diapers, any of those type of things that would have body fluids on them. And I see us giggling, right? Mm-hmm. But seriously, right? It's a question people ask all the time. And when we do our checks or talk to our haulers about contamination, you'd be shocked how much of that is put into the recycle bin. So no, none of that can go into the recycle bin. If you're talking tissue, as in something you'd put in a gift bag, like tissue paper, for example, as long as it's not little tiny microscopic pieces, if it's those great big sheets that you've crumbled up into a big ball, again, clean and dry, sure, that can go into your recycle.
Thank you. So another person asked, what about styrofoam? And another said, can you tell us where we can recycle styrofoam food containers, not popcorn styrofoam?
Sure. So the polystyrene, our famous styrofoam, right? Is a type of plastic. It does, yes, have the ability to be recycled, but the amount of resources it takes to do so truly does not make it worth it. And the byproducts of the recycle process of the styrofoam are not beneficial either. So again, reduce, refuse the use of the styrofoam in the first place. You can collect the styrofoam just like you can bags from takeout or from packaging. You can collect that off to the side, and when you get a certain mass of it, there are places you could bring it to for a special collection. I cannot tell you off the top of my head exactly when or where those places are located because they are pretty few and far in between. But generally, styrofoam does need to go to the landfill. Styrofoam's a nasty product.
And someone just asked about the shells that vegetables come in. I guess that's the same deal. Do you mean the sort of mesh shells that blueberries come in? Those
clamshell, certainly. So these again vary a little bit from hauler to hauler. If they're empty and clean, they can go into your recycle bin. The little absorbent paper in the bottom must be taken out. Otherwise, they go to the landfill. But again, these are such low quality plastic that they don't have the largest recyclability factor. If you can purchase that type of fruit in bulk and use a produce bag or something instead, that's a great option. And when I say a produce bag, I mean a reusable produce bag, not the plastic ones that put us back in that same situation.
Thank you. Someone else asks, what is the state of reforming plastic bags? Can they be made to decompose better?
Well, they don't decompose currently. And can we substitute plastic for something different to make it compostable or decomposable? Probably that would be something to have an industry develop, but plastic is not decomposable or compostable.
And David asks, how does the bulk paper, glass, metal then get chopped up, melted down to get reused? And how efficient are these processes?
Oh, well, that's a great question. And the science behind the actual recycling could be a whole nother program. I don't think I have examples with me. Paper is fibrous. So initially, and we're talking very generically, you wouldn't heat the paper to begin with because we know then the paper would burn. So paper, the idea is to turn it back into a pulp material. So it would be put more into a big vat and wetted down. The inks and dyes would be removed. So then you have kind of a big soup pot. And then that fibrous soup, very generically, again, can be laid out and rolled out and dried to form paper. Metal is going to be shredded down into finer parts, again, melted and remolded. The same with plastic. Some of the plastic as well, which is where some of our materials come from, can actually be broken down and thinned out and fined into almost what looks like a cotton material or cotton strand, and that would be polyester, right? That can be then woven into clothing or other materials. Again, glass will be broken and cleaned, refined, melted, remolded. It's just very generically kind of what happens to those materials.
Thank you. So we have a couple more questions in the chat. If Mary asks, if I pay Batteries Plus to dispose of alkaline batteries, are they doing anything more than just putting the batteries in a landfill?
That would be a question to ask Batteries Plus. I can't speak for their methodologies. Right. Anything that you bring someplace, right? Just as to be a responsible consumer for what we bring in. When we dispose of our materials, there's responsibility there as well. Ask what happens. Ask what the process is.
Interesting question here. Glynis asks, how do you reconcile the use of all the water to clean the recyclables?
That is one of those questions that will kind of be asked for the ends of the earth. So the use of water, one of the things that we're probably aware of, but is a good refresher, is obviously we can't make more water. All of the water that's on our earth has always been here. It just goes through the water cycle, both naturally and how we help man-made. So yes, the water we have available is finite. And obviously most of the water we have available for human use is also a much smaller portion of what actually exists on our entire planet. So we do have to take care of it. The other side of it is that when we think about all of the waste that will be going to the landfill if we're not washing it and making it clean. That amount is astronomical. So there needs to be a balance, right? Use the product we have, scrape everything out to the best of the ability, then rinse it clean to put it in recycle. We have to be responsible with the amount of water we're using, but we also have to divert all of this from going to the landfill. The recyclable materials are what we need to collect. The quality, not the quantity.
Thank you. This is the very last question on chat now, and it's what do we do with the clothes that we can't reuse?
It's great. There's actually a very large industry for clothing and textiles that can't be used, or that I suggest we look at it as we don't prefer to use anymore, right? Something that might have a hole in it, something we might view out of style, something that has a stain, fix it, right? Continue to use it again. Donate reusable or quality textiles to agencies or individuals that can use it. And then there is also the opportunity, as we mentioned, through various organizations. Just one of them I happen to mention, Simple Recycle, can collect those textile products from you. They will resell the ones that are of good quality, the ones that are kind of a middle grade. There's other opportunities for what happens to them, and the ones that are just kind of trashed from the beginning or can't necessarily be repurposed in a traditional fashion are shredded and made into stuffing for pillows, stuffed animals, those types of things.
Have you done any studies about what percentage of households do recycling? And part B of that is, have you done any public service television or radio ads to encourage recycling?
Well, both of those are great questions. Like I said, SWANK helps to assist 23 member communities with their waste management. And in those 23 communities, recycling is offered. There is not a law or anything mandated in those communities that says you must, but most people do participate in some fashion. And do we do marketing and whatnot to help people understand? Yes. That's why I'm here today. Yes, that's why I'm here today. A lot of what we do and promote is through education. We do have a very, very small staff. So it is very challenging to get our message to every member in the community. However, one of the pretty exciting things is that all 23 members of our communities have representatives, right, that work with us to not only bring our message back, but have an understanding of their own and in their communities as to how the waste management happens and how the recycling happens as well. So there are representatives, usually somewhere through your village or your township, that also should be knowledgeable and abreast of all of that information and the new technology to also help put that out there. So yes, we try, but it's also everyone's individual responsibility, right? We're lifelong learners. That's why we're here today, to keep learning.
Well, thank you. Before I hand you over to Bob again, to say goodbye, everyone.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, if we were to go to our browsers on our computers and type in SWANCC,
Yes.
we could go straight to your website.
Absolutely.
For Solid Waste Agency of Northern Cook County.
That's correct.
Thank
Yep.
you again, Theresa.
You are
I'm handing
Thank
the
you all
mic
for
to
your
Bob.
time today, here and online.
Well, I never thought that I would come to the point of thanking someone for talking trash to me.
Yes, right, right. Get together and trash talk all day long.
Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.